In this episode of Project PS4, we go into my local CEX store and just see what Sony published PS4 exclusives we can pick up for the collection. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Command and Console. My name is Jason. Today we are looking to fill out my PS4 collection with Project PS4. Gone out on this mission for PS4. Now I've got a PS5 to play these games, to really kind of focus on Sony published exclusive titles. So there could be other exclusive titles out there that are on PS4 that are not Sony owned. So I don't really care too much about those. I might pick them up later down the line, but for now I want those, PlayStation Studio titles. Without further ado, let's have a look to see what they had in my local CEX store. So as you can see, they had a pretty big chunk of PS4 titles in my local CEX. Really the first time I really had a good look at the PS4 section since I got rid of my PS4 about 4 years ago. I really haven't looked at PlayStation stuff for a while, in terms of PS4 anyway. So it was really nice to see anything I may have missed, or anything that has come out that I saw, that I thought about, that I didn't actually get to play back when I had a PS4. So it was nice to see what was out there, what was really affordable now, because I found some of these games I've got today for PS4 that are PlayStation Studio titles cheaper than I actually thought they would ever be. But yeah, I do have a list that I've written up for PS4. I'm going to show you the list on the screen now. That's the list there. So you can see I've got quite a healthy list for PS4 that I want to cross off titles for. I've picked up 5 titles for PS4 in today's episode, and yeah, I feel these are all decent titles. One title is not a Sony published title, but it's a dirt cheap title of a developer that I really appreciate their games. I think their games are just really fun. To start off with, we've got Ben Studios' own Days Gone. When this game was announced back in, I can't remember that, when did it come out? 2019? When it was announced like 2018 or 2017, and it was showcased anyway. This looks like another just kind of like cardboard cutout, boring open world zombie game with pretty graphics, had impressive zombie stuff going on. Like the amount of zombies on the screen was quite impressive for the time, and I just kind of wrote it off as just another zombie open world game. So until I played it, and I actually generally thought this was one of the better open world zombie games, I think, in the last 10 years at least. I think this game is very much a very interesting and fun open world zombie game, and it kind of gives me the Last of Us vibes. I don't know why, it felt kind of Last of Us-esque in its presentation and its story delivery and stuff like that. So I think this game took a lot of inspiration from The Last of Us, and gave us a really fun zombie open world game. I like the fact that you've got your motorcycle is your a main vehicle of transportation. You've got to find gas stations so you can fill it up with petrol and make sure you've got that topped up so you can get around the place. Yeah, I just thought it was really fun. The level of exploration for this game was really fun, but if you get into I got to a certain point in the game where you have to infiltrate a hive and wipe out a hive of zombies, and it was just nightmarish and terrifying in that regard. And I found the game had quite steep difficulty spikes in those kind of horde mode parts of the game where you've got to wipe out hordes of zombies, or you're being chased by like a horde of like 1,000 zombies. It's terrifying stuff, and I did panic a lot. I never got to finish this though, so this is ample time through backwards compatibility to give this game another go on PS5. But yeah, that's Days Gone. Next up is a platform game that I didn't really grab me back when it came out. I think I played it a little bit of it, or at least played a demo of it. I can't remember which, but that is a launch title for PS4. It was Knack. Remember this game being fairly okay from what I played. It didn't gel with me at the time, but I've really gotten into my platformers lately, so this might click with me more now. Back, all these 10 years later, should we say, this might click with me a bit more. This game was quite revolutionary back in the day because of the time anyway, because your character can like break into little kind of almost like pixels, break apart into little pixels, and then create itself again, but into different forms, like a giant monster form or stuff like that, just different forms. And that was quite revolutionary for the time in terms of the power needed to break into little chunks and then be reformed. And that was pretty cool for this as a platformer. A lot of cool kind of platformer kind of solutions there, where you can break apart and then reform again. So it was quite interesting there. Like I said, at the time it didn't really grab me back then, but maybe nowadays, when I'm actually more into platformers now, this might be a one that I actually might appreciate more nowadays. So that's Knack. Speaking about Knack though, I never realised this got a sequel, so maybe that's definitely one I'll have to look out for in the future. Knack 2, I suppose. But yeah, Knack 1, not a game I liked straight away when it first came out, but it might be something I might appreciate more nowadays. This game is very interesting to me. This game was announced years and years ago, and it was announced for PS3, and it took it years and years to even be realised. And that game is The Last Guardian. Never played this one. I've always been intrigued by it. I think it's made by Japan Studio. I think they made Eco. If I'm incorrect, please feel free to correct me in the comments down below. But yeah, made by Japan Studio. And this one, like I said, I think it was in development hell for years and years. Originally conceived for the PS3, but then they eventually was able to finish it and bring it to us on PS4. This game was thought to have been abandoned for years, and a lot of people didn't think this game was ever going to be released, but thankfully they brought it to us on PlayStation 4. Yeah, let me know if you've played this one, guys, in the comments down below. I've never played this. I've heard that it kind of got mixed reception when it came out, so I'm not sure how I'm going to find it, where you're going to use your animal friend there. I'm not sure exactly what they call him in the game, but your animal friend helps you, solve puzzles and stuff like that. You can direct where it goes and what it does and stuff like that. So it could be quite an interesting little kind of I don't know, puzzle platformer kind of game. But that's The Last Guardian, a game that was in development hell for years, and now we got it so many years later. But yeah, that's Last Guardian. Next up is a game that is not a Sony published game or a Sony studio. It is by a company called Spiders. Now, I've got a really deep love for the Spiders video games. If you don't know who Spiders are, they made games such as Technomancer, Greedfall, and they've put out a game in the last couple of years called Still Rising, which is a game that I will get eventually, because I love what they do with their RPGs. And this one was a game that I remember picking up on Xbox years ago, and I didn't like it at the time, but I played the Technomancer, which I really love. That's one of my favorite kind of like a smaller studios kind of titles. It's kind of almost, it's not indie, but it's like AA. It's got a lot of ambition, but it's kind of like doesn't quite get there, but it's got charm. And I love those kind of games where they've got tons of ambition, they don't have the budget to meet that ambition, but it gives the game a lot of charm. This game is very similar on a replay. I actually really enjoyed this one, and it's called Bound by Flame. It's got elements of Dark Souls in there, but it's nothing like Dark Souls in that regard, but it does have difficulty spikes like Dark Souls, where you've got to kind of manage combat in a certain way to be victorious. But this game is really fun. It's about a knight who gets infected by a demon, and you can basically either choose to basically allow the demon to take you over and become more powerful, or you can choose whether you want to subdue the demonic presence inside you and not allow it to take you over. But this game is really fun. I had a great time with it. I think it's one of the better games from Spiders. The great thing about Spiders is that they've got loads of games that are all RPGs. They're big on their RPGs, but each game has its own flavour. Like Technomancer is this like almost sci-fi kind of RPG. Bound by Flame is your typical kind of, you know, dark fantasy. You got Greedfall, which is more kind of, you know, Victorian, Gothic Victorian, kind of, you know, British Empire, Gothic Victorian style. And then from what I've seen from Still Rising, it's more of a kind of French Revolution, but it's like an alternate future where robots fight the war and stuff like that. That's more of a Dark Souls-esque game as well, from what I've heard. Bound by Flame is a really fun RPG that I think has been overlooked big time. It got really bad reviews when it came out, but I feel like these kind of almost like janky European games, they have charm, and I feel this game has tons of charm to it, and I just really had a good time with it. I do want to get Technomancer as well for PS4, just to have a bit of a Spiders developer collection there, but that's Bound by Flame. I highly recommend it if you've not played it. If you love those kind of European RPGs that are kind of not quite perfect, they have a lot of flaws, but it adds to that charm, I think you might enjoy this one. That's Bound by Flame. The final game of this episode is a game that I've been wanting to get to add to my Resident Evil collection for ages since it came out. I did have it for Xbox Series X, but I thought I'm going to trade that in, sell that, and get this one on PS4 because you get a free PS5 upgrade anyway. And it is the last game I was needed to get for my Resident Evil PS4 collection, and that is Resident Evil 4 Remake. Yeah, I know I had this for Xbox, but I still hadn't got around to playing it. So I haven't played this yet, but I've heard amazing things from it. Speaking of Resident Evil, I have just literally this week just finished Resident Evil 8 Village, which I absolutely adored that game. That game was fantastic. So if this can follow suit and be of that quality, which I've heard it is, I'm probably going to love this one as well. Resident Evil 4 in general is not my favourite Resident Evil game. The original was never my favourite. I always loved the original trilogy, you know, Umbrella Corporation, T-Virus, zombies. So when Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005 and really flipped the lid on what the game was and kind of refreshed the series and gave us, you know, the Las Plagas virus and the Ganados in terms of like the enemies, I found it a bit too much of a change for the series and I couldn't really get on board with it. I appreciate the game now as I'm more of an adult, and I've really appreciated it more now, but at the time I just wanted that classic Resident Evil thing. So but yeah, like I said, as for a remake, they've been smashing the remakes lately. Resident Evil 2 remake was great. I've not played Resident Evil 3 remake. I've heard it's not very good, but I've heard people that still said, as in terms of its quality, it's good. It just doesn't have the content there, which is a shame. But I'm hoping this one smashes it out of the park. That's Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil. So that is it, guys. That are those pickups for PS4 that I've gotten this week. Let me know any Sony published titles that you think I should pick up for my collection and anything I've forgotten. I do have a list. I should have shown you it before, but if I didn't show you it earlier, you can have a look at it now. That's the list. I'm going to cross off what we've already got, of course, and there we go. That is Project PS4 episode 2 done. As always, guys, let me know any and all of your opinions on the games I've shown in this video down in the comments down below. And as always, let's continue to build a games collection.